Hey guys, Dabadoo here. So I have a new original build planned for 3.26. It is a dominating blow of inspiration champion. This is the damage on a 4-link with budget items. It's a pretty budget build, as you're going to see in a moment. And why do I think this build is good? Well, one, it's cheap. Two, it's relatively tanky. Three, it does good damage on a budget with a 4-link. I guess beyond that, I think it would be a really good build to play this league because you get mercenaries. And I'm not factoring any mercenary tech or mercenaries in the build right now. But basically, as a champion, with how I have this build set up, you get to empower all of your allies around you and make them tanky and make them strong and keep them alive. This build also utilizes Animate Guardian, which is really cool. Utilizes Spectres. And just all of these minions around you make you stronger as well. And, you know, as you can see with the stats here, you're actually doing most of the damage in the build. It isn't your minions. So this is kind of a minion build where your minions do some damage, but you're really the primary damage dealer. A lot of the damage is also being dealt by Impale. But we'll get all to that in a minute, okay? So let's go and talk about, I guess, the tech and how this build works. Okay, so let's go to my items here. And let's talk about what this build works around and why I think this is cool. So I actually came up with an Absolution Guardian build a long time ago. It's been my most popular video I've made, and it's even stronger this league. But beyond that, the tech that it uses was this engine. I didn't really see any other content creators use this tech before, and it worked pretty well in this build, and now it's even better. So I'll explain. So use the Queen's Hunger, and this should be a pretty easy drop to get this league because everyone's going to be running Betrayal, so there should be a lot of these Queen's Hungers on the market. All right, and what Queen's Hunger does is it basically lets you get all of the offerings, and they're cast one at a time. Now, it used to cast them at random, so you couldn't like determine if you got Bone Offering or Spirit Offering or whatever. You just got whatever it gave you, and sometimes it just gave you the same thing like 3 times in a row, and that sucked. But now it's always one after the other. It's deterministic. And then when you combine that with the Leash of Oblation, which basically lets you have all the offerings on all of the time, it's very strong. So for example, if we go to the config tab, you're going to see that I have all of this from the self offerings. These self offerings are at full strength, not 50% strength like you'd get on a Necromancer. This applies to you and your minions, and they should be up all of the time or very, very close. So that's basically the tech behind the build. Let me go over the other items. Also, I noticed I have a Bottled Faith in here. You don't need a Bottled Faith. It is useful as like an upgrade tech. So if you look, if I add, let's see, item on Consecrated Ground, as you see, but I didn't even have that factored in. But that was a mistake. Didn't mean to scare anyone off there. But let me go put it to, let's see, where is it? Just use that as a placeholder until you can get your Bottled Faith. As you can see, it's fine. It gives you Consecrated Ground, and it gives you some damage as well. All right, so let's talk about the rest of the items. You're going to be using a Paradoxica. Now, this should be a relatively easy item to obtain. You're going to want to get a physical damage roll with the Impale, and you're going to want to get Blood Rage with attack speed, okay? I don't know how much this is going to be. If you can get an attack speed with like stats instead of Blood Rage and it's cheaper, then get that. But this is eventually a sword that you're going to want to get. Now, I understand these are more like day 2 items, but this build should be pretty cheap to put together by day 2, okay? This is the shield that I threw on here. It's just a Fossilized Spirit shield. I put 3 explicits on there. I put tier 2 Fire, Chaos, and Minion damage. And then I threw that Benchcraft on for armor as soul prevention. That's really good because you're going to be using Vol, Dominating Blow of Inspiration, and there's a 20-second soul prevention cooldown time. So basically for 20 seconds, you're going to get close to 4,000 flat armor, which is pretty nice from that one little Benchcraft, okay? So we'll get to this in a minute. All right, let's go back here. So let's... this is the Bone Helm that I have on here. I have the lowest level Eldritch Implicits for mana reservation and reduced mana cost. Once you get those higher, then this build will be more comfortable. Your attacks won't cost as much mana, and you'll have extra mana available to use. So, and you can also kind of fit in even more tech once you get your increased mana reservation. So that's what you're going to want to get for the implicits on your Bone Helm. In terms of, you know, the explicits on your Bone Helm, like the other affixes, the normal affixes, whatever, it's not a factor right now. Now this is your body armor. We talked about this. Now this is a Betrayal League, like I said. So people are going to be farming Betrayal, and Betrayal drops Paradoxicas. Betrayal drops Queen Hungers. Normally this is like a 5C item. It shouldn't be very expensive to get. Okay? And they should be probably cheaper this league because so many people will be running Betrayal. This is probably the most expensive item in the build. Eventually you're going to want to get the +2 to socket and minion gems. You might actually be able to get this on a budget because people that get that as your corruption might think it's a brick, but for this build, it's not a brick. So anyways, this is kind of what you're looking for your gloves. You can use placeholder gloves until you can get these. These are usually like 1 div or something within a couple of days. But those are the gloves you're eventually going to want to get. So here are the boots. I just have Bone Offering and increased armor for helmet and gloves as the Eldritch implicits. Again, these are the lowest tier of the Eldritch implicits, just for theory crafting, but you're eventually going to want to get these higher tier as well because they'll make your build stronger. You're going to be rocking bone rings. I put tier 2 or tier 3 affixes on these. I put a lightning resistance, chaos resistance, minion damage, and attack speed. And you know, you're looking for something similar as well for the other ring. I got, you know, all elemental resistances, and I got a flat lightning resistance. That's kind of like the main difference between both of these. Now, I'm not sure how much these rings cost, but you probably can get like versions of these rings are close enough, relatively cheap. You probably don't want to search for them with life on them because it'll add a premium. So you just bench craft life plus mana regen. It's actually a pretty nice bench craft and people overlook it, but that 4 mana regen plus flat life is sometimes better than 60 life or more than that. This is the belt. We talked about this. This is a cheap item as well, usually 5C or less. These are your flasks. These are all cheap flasks. You don't have anything super expensive here. These are just, you know, reduced charges per use, increased armor during effect, that sort of stuff. So these flasks are cheap as well. And they're mainly used for defense, as you can see. Now, if you put a Slavin on this character, which you can do, of course, and it's in here, you'll basically have infinity hit points or whatever. But again, that's, you know, on paper. And I really kind of just want to rock this fossilized spirit shield because this build really benefits from minions deal increased damage. And this is a lot of minions deal increased damage on this one shield. These are the jewels that I put in here. Just, you know, flat life. Minions, you know, do more damage, which also affects you. Your minions leech, which is nice, and increased impale effect. And this one is the same thing except blind. So this one has leech and this one has blind. So your minions have a chance to blind. Blind's going to be nice because you do have some evasion on this build. Your minions will have some evasion on this build. And this is like your chance to evade a boss, basically, or roughly. Now, for another jewel you're going to want to get is probably something like this. It doesn't have to have corrupted blood on it as a corruption. You can just get corrupted blood on whatever jewel you put in here. But you're probably going to want to get something like this as well with reduced curse effect, increased impale, minion damage, and life. That's what you're looking at. Okay, as you can see, this isn't. I have a lot of affixes empty. You know, nothing's max tier on any of this. Yeah, so those are the items, and I have possible upgrades in here as well. As you can see, I have all these other jewels you can play around with. I have a Bottle of Faith that you can play around with. Other things that you can play around with to check this out. Also, what's nice is that the anointment on the amulet is also a very cheap anointment. It is Grave Intentions. Grave Intentions is low-key a very strong anointment for minion builds. And also it lets you use fun tech, such as Energy Leech. So it lets your minions leech if you put the Energy Leech support on your minions. It's a way to get basically flat damage for your minions and you, and give you another source of leech for your energy shield and your minions' energy shield. And then, of course, it gives them chaos resistance, and that's kind of hard to get for minions. So that's pretty nice. So that'll make sure that your Animate Guardian doesn't die that easily, or your Dominating Blow Sentinels won't die that easily, or your Spectres, and you know this should help. Now, this is very cheap. Another option is you can get Death Anointment or Death Attunement as your Anointment, and you know, if you can get a 4th Spectre in this build, you can fit in a lot of extra power. So, for example, here's an example of a 4 Spectre. It's called the Spectral Leader, and it basically has an AoE buff on it most of the time. Let's say 80% of the time. If you don't want to do Grave Intentions and you want to like min-max the damage, but I like kind of more balanced builds, and I don't want to ever have to recast my Spectres. But as you can see, like that's pretty nice, right? So if you can fit a 4 Spectre in, that's the kind of damage you're looking at. And you have other options as well. Like you can go super expensive and get the expensive Spectres. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. 20 Divines for a Spectre, man. That's a lot. But the Spectres that you'll be using are a Perfect Guardian Turtle. They're about 15C. A Perfect Forest Warrior. Whoops. They're about 15C as well, I believe. And a Primal Thunderbird. They're about 10C to 15C. So those are the Spectres you're eventually going to want to use. And those will give you Determination and Grace and also Onslaught and also Calling Strike. And they do some other stuff too. But that's what you're going to want to get. That's what you're looking for the Spectres. Now, for your Animate Guardian, what I have on the Animate Guardian is I have Legacy of Fury Boots, which basically makes things scorched and like makes them blow up half the time or whatever. So that's nice. You got a Leer Cast for a hat. You got the Garb of the Ephemeral for the body armor, which basically means that you and all your allies are immune to crits, which is kind of nice. And also slows and annoying stuff like that. I don't have a Kingmaker because those are probably going to be expensive and whatever. I have Graveblind Gloves that makes it so that all of my kills count as coming from the Animated Guardian. And when that's the case, then they'll trigger the Legacy of Fury Boots, and that'll cause the explosion. For the weapon on the Animated Guardian, I just have a Dying Breath. I think what's kind of effective for this is that, let's see what the damage is. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like this might be properly applying, but whatever. This is what I have for the weapon. The Dying Breath is a super cheap staff to stick on the Animate Guardian. You can go fancier. You know, for the Merc tech or whatever, I'm probably going to be doing like some type of shield plus like some sword thing to get like charges for all my guys. Whatever. I'll deal with that later. Let's also talk about the other things that I have checked. So like I said, I have Blood Rage and I have Poacher's Mark. That's I can get frenzy charges for my guys that way. Also, I have Onslaught. Onslaught should be on all the time. It's from my Perfect Forest Warrior right over here. I'm fortified. I'm a champion. I'm fortified all the time. I should be basically max rage all the time because I have my Admiral's Arrogance plus a point here on the tree to get 1 rage on melee hit. So that's why that's checked. Have a hit recently? Yeah, like this. Yes. Now this is cool because whenever you use your Vol Dominating Blow, it basically buffs up one of your Sentinels. Okay, and so now your Sentinels do even more damage. I don't have any Vol Sentinels applied to this. It's just regular old Sentinels that I'm using in the PoB right now. But basically, after you cast it once, it basically super buffs one of your Sentinels. They stay super buffed for a long time, and you also, for 20 seconds, get a bunch of extra armor. Okay, and this is the armor value without Flasks on, I believe, right? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, it's good enough to basically work with Molten Shell, and I have Molten Shell in this build, and it lasts a long time as well. Yes, I've impaled enemies. Now, I guess some things that might not be realistic, but this is a boss, right? So I do have Banner Planted. So this is a big DPS right here. But you know, I think it's, if you're fighting a boss and you get your Valor charged up, you drop your banner. This is a kind of damage that you're looking at from that. Yes, the enemies will be branded. The boss will be branded because you use Arcanist brand. I'll get to that tech in a minute. Feeding Frenzy is active as well. Yeah, I think this is all, they're maimed. Yep, I have maimed tech, blind tech, taunted tech, intimidate tech. So yeah, these are all realistic things, okay? And you're leeching as well because you have energy leech and you have blood rage on you. And yeah, so that's kind of what I have checked. Keep in mind that all this stuff red is not affecting anything, and they're just commented out. Okay, but these are from my Spectres, and these are from my Animate Guardian and my self offerings. Okay, that's what this is all about. And you might actually be stronger because I'm not factoring other buffs from like the Guardian Turtle and things like that in here. Okay, but let's go back to more of the tech here. So I think let's talk about the skills. So like I said, these are automatically going to be cast. Now, when these get cast, you'll need corpses around. Now, the way you get corpses around during a boss fight is you will have Arcanist brand plus Poacher's Mark. Poacher's Mark is very effective for this build, okay? Plus Poacher's Mark plus Desecrate. So your Arcanist brand will basically be cycling between marking it and then desecrating and putting the bodies around it. So those, when you, every 5 seconds, when your body armor triggers one of these offerings, it will be able to basically be able to trigger nearly in full. So let's just talk about, the blood rage you get from your sword for free should be on when you kill a monster. This is what I have here. Now, you're not going to get this right away, right? Like this is, I think, it's like 50C or less usually, right? It's like 20C or something. But I just did that because I wanted to see the damage with Intimidate, right? So without Intimidate and that, this is what it looks like. So yeah, let's take this one off and let's just put this one on instead. So now what else do we have? Your Spectres. So your Spectres, you're going to have Animate Guardian and your Spectres in the same cluster, along with Beat, Shield, and Maim. Now, if you don't have a +2 on your gloves, or +2 for minions somewhere, then what's going to happen is you're going to have to use an Empower, not a level 4 Empower, just a level 3 Empower. It could be like a bricked one. You can buy them pretty cheap, and then you can take off Maim. But you are losing damage by doing that. Okay. So basically, until you get +2 to minions for your gloves or some piece of armor, then you're going to want to get an Empower on here, and that's simply because you want to be able to have 3 Spectres. So that's the plan, and you need level 25 Raise Spectre to basically have 3 Spectres. Now, if you happen to get the Anointment here for Death Attunement, then you can, of course. You don't need to worry about that, but I'd rather have my Anointment as this because I've played minion builds before. I really like Grave Intentions, and I really like Energy Leech on my minions. What else? So this is another cluster you'll be using. You can either go more duration here, or you can go faster attacks here. So it's whatever way you like. If you want faster attacks on your movement, so one option is you can just go Frostblink, okay? Because you're going to basically be relatively quick. You're running around with like Spirit Offering or whatever, the Flesh Offering on all the time. And you could go more duration here. And that this will make your Molten Shell last a really long time because you have, not only do you have the more duration support from it, but you also have all of these things here, okay, for more skill duration. And then you have the skill duration stuff up here as well. So that basically adds a bunch of extra duration. So this Molten Shell is going to probably last over 10 seconds easily. Why I'm doing this is because you just don't have enough sockets to put all of your gems in. So you basically have to pick and choose, and that's kind of what I narrowed it down to. You can, of course, get an unset ring, but the fact is that if you put an unset ring in here, you miss out on a lot of good stats for yourself. So I'd rather have those really good stats. Because remember, because you're using Dominating Blow of Inspiration, not regular Dominating Blow, all of your minions deal increased damage affixes basically count as 250%. So 2.5 times whatever. So it's a very effective stat for this character, and that's why I'm trying to rock these bone rings. Yeah, so you're also going to have a cluster of this. Now, the thing is with eventually, once you get more mana reservation, let's say, for example, you get a higher Eldritch Implicit for mana reservation in your hat, then you can also link Herald of Purity up with Feeding Frenzy, and that'll make your Heralds of Purity aggressive, which are really nice because they'll just like go out really far in front of you and they'll taunt monsters and like they'll stick them there, and it's really nice. But you know, if you're trying to just keep it budget and you know you have limited mana reservation, then you just will not have Herald of Purity linked to Feeding Frenzy and Stone Golems. It'll just be on its own separate thing. But if you can do that, this is what you're looking at. Well, not this. You're looking at this, right? So, okay. And you can manage that once you get more mana reservation efficiency in your hat. Okay, so that's that. This is the Arcanist brand that gives you, you know, bodies on the ground, puts a mark on. Yeah, that's a tech there. Purity of Elements. This is the aura that you'll be running, so you're also immune to like all the elements. Your monsters, your minions are immune to all the elements. Flesh and Stone is something else you'll be running. Right now we have it on Blood Stance. Blood Stance is effective for this character because you basically do all minion damage, but you can always switch it. So for example, this is the damage of Blood Stance, but you can go to Sand Stance. As you can see, it makes you much more tankier, okay? And that's without the flasks on. And then here's an aura you're also running. You know, this is like it's big, right? But what you can also do again, if your minions never die, and like you have really really great gear, and you want to dump money on this, like you can get you know, a Forest Spectre, and you got options for your Forest Spectre, right? It could be like a cheap free Spectre that just gives you 20% action speed, or it could be a freaking Blood Demon that gives you pride and makes everything corrupted blood immune. So that's 20 divs, right? I ain't gonna do that. But the point is that like you can fit more power in the build, but I'm trying to keep it budget right now. So those are the items. That's the tech. That's the skill combinations. Probably what most people are going to be doing is, I would suggest this, is I'd go like, I like Leap Slam over Whirling Blades, but it's up to you. So I do this, and I'm not going to have more duration on here. I think these will last long enough as is, but we'll see. I'll play it by ear. And you know, this is a theory craft. I wasn't able to get all of the items together to basically make a video in standard for this build, but I've played similar builds before. I'm pretty confident this is going to work well. Yeah, and I don't see like it being that difficult to acquire these items or items that are close to these items. Yeah, and so let's just add some more damage on the build right now. So let's go to Dominating Bull. Let's just make this like level. Here, let's put this up one level there. We can also just add more stuff like, you know, here's Multi-Strike, here's Brutality, right? So the damage goes up higher. You go like, here's Awaken Multi-Strike, here's Brutality. Well, I'm not going to be able to afford Awaken Multi-Strike, but you get it. Like the damage can get pumped up really quickly. Also, Ancestral Call is going to be really nice in this build. You also have Splash too, which is nice, right? So you have this down here. And so you get the splash from your Dominating Blow. Your minions won't get the splash, but that's fine. You do most of the damage, and you get that extra target. But now with Ancestral Call, like you're going to have great clear. So I'd probably go this. Actually, Awaken Ancestral Call is relatively cheap. You could probably get this for a few divines, I think, maybe cheaper. And then you have just for something to think about. And then you're probably going to get like, you know, Multi-Strike or something. Okay, so that's kind of the damage you're looking at. That's good enough. Like if you want to go full single target deeps, then you don't need to go Ancestral Call. But Ancestral Call is nice because it gives you, you know, extra strike range and all that fun stuff. So that's kind of what you're looking at there. Let's just check all these things. Yeah, there. And this is in Blood Stance, right? Not sure if I forgot to check anything else. Yeah, with the banner dropped. Yeah, so And then, if you stick the Bottle of Faith on here, it'll go higher, that sort of stuff. You get more affixes on your gear. You get like a +1 to minions here. You get something. I probably just get life, honestly, like flat life. And also other things that you could do is like you could get, because your block is really nice with this build. You can get with the new orbs, you can basically get percentage life on block and get like a lucky slam from that. So there's probably going to be a lot more like Shaper and Elder shields out that you can pick up, because if you get like plus life on block there, you're probably going to see like a much higher hit point pool than this. Yeah, so that's what you're looking at. I apologize for not having gameplay footage. I think this build's going to be pretty fun this league. I'm really excited to try it out. And I'll be providing updates playing it. Of note, I'm very busy right now. I'm dealing with a lot of stuff in real life. So just bear with me, guys. But, I'll be providing the updates. If you want to try this build, feel free to. I always try to answer questions, and I try to give as much support as I can through the YouTube or whatever other channels for my builds for people that try them out. All right, guys. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.